So much.
Published, and of course, to market to sell it. It's a free consultation, so call right now. Find out how much time and money it takes to finally get that book idea of yours published. Make your dreams happen. Call Dorrance Publishing right now.
800-640-6298. 800-640-6298. 800-640-6298. That's 800-640-6298.
Hi, this is Patty Vasquez, host of Driving It Home right here on WCPT. Now that we have an extra hour together, we have more time to cover the important stories of the day, and I always look forward to hearing from you. Let's talk about what's happening to our democracy and what we can do to help each other. I'm so grateful for your support, as well as our sponsors, Kids Above All, European and U.S. Car Service, and the Minocqua Brewing Company.
Patty Vasquez, weeknights 5 to 7 on WCPT 820.
Women hear a lot about self-care these days. Advice on ways to relax, exercise, eat healthy, and more. Those are all great. But one of the most important self-care steps we can take is making sure we're financially secure later in life. That means saving money for retirement. It's never too late to start. And it's the kind of self-care that brings peace of mind that lasts. For small steps you can take to save for retirement, visit WeSaySaveIt.org. That's WeSaySaveIt.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley. Ohio voters have rejected a Republican-backed measure that would have made it more difficult to pass abortion protections. But Ohio's Republican Senate President Matt Huffman says this fight isn't over.
I think we'll probably ask this question again, but perhaps not in the same kind of atmosphere that we have and have had over the past 10 or 12 months.
Somebody who bought a ticket in Florida has won the big Mega Millions jackpot.
There's one winning ticket in the 1.58.
All right, I have Pastor Johnson pulled up, and I'm pulling up your Facebook now to check the levels.
Thank you. Florida, the numbers drawn Tuesday night are 13,
Hi, Pastor Johnson.
19, 20, 32.
Well, good morning, Sandy. I see that one winner was not you, huh?
Honey, I still be here.
The third largest in U.S. history.
You know, you gotta have a sense of purpose.
They were
shot down 2 drones aimed at
but they were in Florida.
Well,
I mean, of course, at some little place where I would not be.
Ukraine's latest attempt to strike the Russian capital.
Why did it, Santa Claus come straight to the ghetto? Why is it? It's never there, right?
All right, everything's sounding good on my end and on Facebook.
Oh boy! Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to run and give you an exact time on when the show starts.
Thank you so much. Let me know. All right, looking forward to that.
Yes.
Ukrainian officials have not commented so far. Ukraine usually neither confirms nor denies such attacks. I'm Charles Ledesma.
41 people are believed dead after a migrant boat capsized off Tunisia. This summer, there have been several shipwrecks of smugglers' boats leaving Tunisia, bound for Italy. Gas prices are holding steady for the moment, $3.82 a gallon on average, says the AAA. This is AP News.
Okay, just give me one hot second, Pastor Johnson, and thank you for that information.
A U.S. Navy sailor's
and feel
mom
free
may
to
have
share it.
encouraged him to pass military details to China. A federal prosecutor told a judge that the mother of a U.S. Navy sailor who is charged with providing sensitive military information to China encouraged him to cooperate with a Chinese intelligence officer. In a federal court in San Diego, the prosecutor said that the mother of 22-year-old Jin Xiao Wei told Wei that cooperating might help him get a job with the Chinese government someday. The judge ruled to in federal custody without bond. Wei was one of 2 sailors arrested last week in California and accused of providing military information to China. Both have pleaded not guilty to the charges. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The Dow fell 158 points yesterday. The S&P fell 19.
Hello, we have about 6 minutes.
Perfect. Thank
I'm
you.
Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today. We'll see high in the mid-80s. Southwest winds are on 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms, mostly cloudy and low near 66. By Thursday, sunshine, high of 84 degrees. Friday, a chance for showers and storms late with a high of 85.
All right. Hey,
Saturday,
everybody.
plenty
How
of
you
blue
doing?
skies and
It is
sun, high
great
around
to be with you
87.
today.
That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Let me start at the
Currently
top
at 67.
Are you
Dave
a parent
Dowling
of a
and
2 to
Michael
7-year-old?
Ann and
Listen
Andre.
closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the
Joyce,
award-winning and revolutionary
Carol
online learning
from
program
LA.
that's changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
Oh,
ABC
Joyce.
Mouse is like a
Oh,
little
I'm so glad you
one-on-one
like the
teacher.
necklace, huh?
It
I've
has
had it
helped
for
her
years and
so
years. I've
much.
just never worn it.
Designed
And I
by
said, wait
teachers
a minute,
and
I'm
early
going to do
childhood
pink today.
learning
So
experts, ABC
let me
Mouse
do this.
seamlessly aligns with what your
And let me
child
put
is
on my
already
purple
learning in
glasses.
school. And with over 7,000 learning activities and more than
Boy, Vicky, I
650
can come up with some
lessons, it's
stuff
the most
now.
comprehensive early learning site on earth.
I've been teaching for 13 years, and I've never seen a program like ABC Mouse. It encompasses science, math, reading, social studies. It's just endless what they can learn on
girl, what
ABC
about
Mouse.
this? We're
I've
going to be
always had
talking
to
about
use
this
20 websites.
this
And
brawl
now I can just use
in
one.
Right now, we're offering a
Alabama.
special radio promo
What
to
about
try it
that?
free for a month. But you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio,
I want you all to
abcmouse.com/radio.
call
Sponsored
in
by Age of Learning.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just
and let us
waiting for
know
them.
what you
And
think
there
about
they go,
that.
almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car, and there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size.
Okay.
Learn more at
I'm going to give that to you
nhtsa.gov/the right
so
seat.
you all let us know what you're thinking. And everybody, please go over to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And
3 minutes.
okay, thank you. Okay, can you turn? I need to hear the radio.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, no worries.
And with the transition and everything I'm juggling, I'm spread too thin. I finally realized that it's hurting my mental health. To get back to enjoying life again, I needed to get help. Opening up to someone was a big step for me. I saw that I'm not alone and that there are tools to help me overcome what I'm going through. With support, I feel like I'm heading in the right direction. Discover how other women veterans like me have learned to thrive after military service by taking care of themselves and their mental health. Visit maketheconnection.net/women veterans.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Has your gambling become a financial and emotional problem? Is your life unmanageable and you're starting to lose hope that you can put an end to the madness? You don't have to suffer alone. There is help. The members of Gamblers Anonymous are ready to welcome and support you. We understand what you're going through. We have been where you are today. Please visit our website at www.gachicago.org and learn more about how your life can get better. That's www.gachicago.org.
Having
60 seconds.
should
Thank
never
you.
come with strings attached, like being harassed and constantly pressured for sexual favors.
My leaky faucet turned into the maintenance man asking, when are we going to get to know each other better?
I needed my air conditioner fixed, but my building manager repeatedly kept coming into my apartment unannounced and without permission.
My landlord told me my rent would be free if I gave him something in exchange.
Sexual harassment by anyone associated with your housing isn't just wrong, it's against the law.
The Fair Housing Act protects you from harassment, including someone making unwelcome sexual advances or refusing to make repairs because you deny sexual favors. If this happens to you, you can stop it by filing a complaint with HUD.
So I called HUD and filed a complaint against my building manager. No strings attached.
Fair Housing. The law is on your side. To learn
Thank you,
more,
Michael
visit
and
hud.gov/fairhousing.
everybody.
Stand by.
Please get over to YouTube.
If you fear for your safety, call 911.
I'm glad to be
Public
with you all
service
this
message from HUD in
morning.
partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
To a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Should I say that to myself? I'm back. It's a joy to be with you on Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. Getting a little feedback. Let's work that out. It is great to be with you today. Let's talk about this the Alabama riverboat dock brawl. What does it say about who we are? What happened? Well, we're going to talk about that with an Alabama State Representative, Mariko Coleman. Just what happened down there? What happened down there? And there's a reluctance to call it racial. To me, clearly it was. There's a lot going on. I mean, you see a guy, he waited more than 40 minutes. The captain of this riverboat waited more than 40 minutes, appealed to these men in this little pontoon. Hey, can you move? Because you're in our spot. We've got a lot of paying customers on here. We need to let them go. And they refused to move. And then when he came out, when he got a little boat to come and take him over to speak to them, to appeal to them, one guy jumps off the boat, tries to beat him down, and then they all jump off the boat to try to beat him down. And oh my gosh, then you see this young black child, a high schooler, who jumps in the water. He sees this black man being attacked by this gang of white men and says, wait a minute, hold up. There's a lot going on here. And I think we need to take it apart and talk about it, because this is like a nightmare that Dr. King foresaw, which is why he pushed so hard for nonviolence. But at some point, you do have the right to defend yourself. Now, you do. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about it today, because this is not just, don't give me a speech about this not being who we are. This is exactly who we are. And I think we need to talk about that as we seek to become a more perfect union, if that is the goal. Call me at 773-763-9278. I just want to know what your thoughts are. 773-763-WCPT. I leave you for 5 minutes and look at what happens. Women, the American women are knocked out of the World Cup. Jamaica gets knocked out of the World Cup. By the way, one of their primary sponsors and boosters is Bob Marley's daughter, Cedella. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, go. Bob Marley, they do so much to really lift the country of Jamaica. And but they're out now. But boy, they've been a miracle team. And Morocco's been a miracle team, too. So we got a lot to talk about, everybody. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I want to hear your thoughts about this little Alabama riverboat dock brawl. What do you think about it? This is what happens when I leave you. I guess I just can't leave you, because it's like so much comes apart. Everybody, call me at 773-763-9278 on WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And now some of these headlines. Ohio voted against making it more difficult to amend the state constitution. Ohio voters yesterday decided on issue number 1. The measure would have raised the threshold for amending the state constitution from a simple majority to 60%, with about 98% of votes counted. 57% had voted against the proposal. It's a win for abortion rights supporters. Ohio will vote on guaranteeing abortion rights in November. Issue number 1 would have made it much harder to pass. The Supreme Court reinstated restrictions on ghost guns. What are they? Firearms They bought online in parts without a background check. If you buy this part, this part, this part, you can put it together and have your gun. And they don't have serial numbers. They've been used in deadly shootings nationwide. The court voted 5-4, with some conservative members joining with the liberals, to allow the Biden administration's regulations to remain in place while legal battles continue. 3 men were charged after a massive weekend brawl in Alabama, which we are talking about today. Call me at 773-763-9278. A group of white voters attacked a black riverboat co-captain on Saturday on a dock in Montgomery, Alabama, that iconic city. Really, one of the birthplaces of the modern day civil rights movement. A brawl followed, and videos, shall I say, have gone viral. Let's talk about that at 773-763-9278. A new coronavirus variant is becoming dominant in the U.S. EG.5, a subvariant of Omicron. It's more infectious, but not more severe than previous strains. They include a runny nose, sneezing, and a cough. It can lead to more serious illness, but it hasn't increased the number of intensive care cases or deaths. By the way, there are about 330, Pastor Vicki Johnson, 330 to 340 million people in America. Do you know how many hospital beds there are, Pastor Johnson? Take a guess.
No.
Just take a guess. Just take a guess.
Let's say a percentage. I'm going to say like 20%.
Okay, so you're saying like 60 million, right? 66 to 68 million. No, they're 920,000. So when we looked at all of this spillage, So when we saw all of this spillage, we're going to talk about that in the coming days. When we look at all of this spillage during the pandemic, and oh my gosh, and it was awful, no question about it. We've run out of hospital beds. This is horrible. No, what they have. The conceit, the lie, is that we don't have enough is that we have enough hospital beds in the first place. Can you imagine a nation of this size only having 900,000 plus beds? And that's down from 1975, when we had 1.5 million beds. And we are closing hospitals. Are you serious? So I guess you don't plan for anyone to get well. Is that it? Yeah, I just had to. Well, I start digging down and I start asking questions and start doing research, and there we have it. In Chicago, we'll have a high of 83 degrees, mostly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 84 degrees, isolated thunderstorms. And in the World Cup, France 4, Morocco nothing, Colombia 1, Jamaica 0. But they had quite a run, Morocco and Jamaica, and Australia 2, and Denmark 0. Major League Baseball, the Twins will be facing off against the Tigers. The Cubs 3, the Mets 2. The Yankees 7, the White Sox 1. And in the WNBA, the Lynx bested the Sky 88-79. Those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Pastor Vicki Johnson, how are you today?
I am great, Santita. How are you?
I am doing great. Got a couple of days away, and I feel refreshed. My goodness, it's amazing what a little bit of sleep will do for you. Even though I did work, but everybody. I have a 7-day work week. I work on Saturdays and Sundays, and it's a pace that I'm going to have to change up. But it is what it is, and I'm grateful. It's a good thing that I love the work that I do. That having been said, you have some news before you give us the good news about 2 of our beloveds who made their transitions last week to be with the Lord.
Yes. So last week, Professor Kenneth Woods, a Chicago public school teacher, as well as a great gospel musician throughout the city of Chicago and across the country, made his transition. His services will be on Friday, August the 18th at God's House of All Nations here in Chicago on 84th and Stony Island. Visitation 6 to 7 and the service at 7. And then one of our morning stars that is now an angel, Professor L. Stanley Davis. His service will be on Sunday, August the 20th at First Church of Deliverance on 43rd and Wabash. The visitation from 3 to 4 and the celebratory musical from 4 to 6. His burial will be in his home state of Maryland.
All right. We love you, L. Stanley Davis and Professor Kenneth Woods. Well, what is the good news today? We need you. We surely do need some.
Yes, we do. Well, good morning, Santita, and good morning to all of your morning stars, angels, and friends. There is good news. We have received many phone calls, text, social media posts, so news about people we know who have gone on to the next plane of existence. When we first got the news, we were shocked, saying things like, I just talked to him yesterday, or I just saw her last week. Then we go on to recall conversations, the last words shared. This process continues by recalling something about the relationship that leads to our joy or to our sorrow. This, or something like this, is the process we follow to adjust to the absence of our loved ones in the physical body. Considering that we all came here the same way, believe it or not, we're all going to leave here the same way. Birth and death. We've already experienced birth, all of us that are listening today, but we are yet to experience death. I don't mean to be morbid on today. I'm just being real. It causes you to think about your own life. What impact do you have on the lives of others? What will people have to say about you? How do you make others feel? In what ways will you be missed or remembered? People don't like to think about this, but it's a thought that should cross your mind at some point. And it can cause some worry or concern. So while reflecting on these things, there is no need to be worried or to be afraid. Isaiah, the 41st chapter, verses 10 and 11 says, So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. For I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, Do not fear. I will help you. I will help you even through the final stage of life. So, all is well. Live your life. But be sure that while you are living your life, that you leave something good behind. Something good behind so that the world better because you have passed this way. If you will do this, and I hope that you will, then to me, that's good news.
Amen. Amen and amen. Don't leave people angry. Please don't. Because boy, you can surely regret it. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Because, as I want to think of Barbara Streisand's song, The Way We Were. I mean, we really remember the good times. I love when Gladys Knight's rendition, try to remember that the kind of September when life was slow and oh so mellow. I mean, the good times are now. They're right now.
Yes.
They're right now. They're right. That's how she opened
Right.
it. They're right now. So everybody take advantage of that. This is your best day because the Lord made it. I love you, Pastor Vicki Johnson.
Love you, Santita.
Thank you so much. We've got Dr. Shanina Knight, an infection preventionist, checking in on me. Bless your heart. What did you say? What? You actually got a little bit of rest? Yes. And you know what? I can tell you, everybody, I can attest to this. Rest really makes a difference. I can feel the difference in my body, Dr. Knighton. Really. And I can always, my body is very, very sensitive. A lot of little things happen. I can get some swelling. I mean, just all kinds of things just kind of let me know that I need to get some rest. And all that stuff has just gone, it's just gone away, just gone away. All because I actually got about 7 hours of sleep a night, which I never get, which I absolutely never get. It is great hearing your voice. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, and I'm so happy that you had a chance to rest. And I was thinking heavily of you yesterday, and that you always say something, and it resonates so much when it comes to health. And you say, live to fight another day. And it's interesting because I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and the topic was, is why do people maintenance their bodies and maintenance their health like they maintenance cars? I mean, it's, oh, yeah, I just need a tune-up, give me the bare minimum. Oh, I just need to get this done. Okay, I just need enough so I can get to work. And it's this cognizant thing that we don't think about, the fact that if we do not have our best health, if we are not in our right mindset, being at work won't matter. Meaning that we are easily replaceable, we may be easily dispensable, and yes, while we might be missed, taking that time to be able to, as you mentioned, be able to get your rest, being able to, let's say, go check on your health because you feel like something may be off, is so essential because that could be the last time that you show up at that job. That could be the last time that you interact with a family member. And so it's interesting because as we think about prevention and where we are, a lot of times our bodies will clue us in. So maybe we are having, let's say, that headache that didn't go away. We are having that stomach pain that we say, oh, well, maybe I just ate something wrong. And we'll continue to brush it off because it's inconvenience in our lives. But that inconvenience could very well and is most likely your warning sign that you need to go check on yourself. The other piece of that is that I continue to emphasize as we talk about when living to fight another day, the fact that we should all have primary care providers or a trusted healthcare professional that we can rely on, that we can regularly speak with, and at minimal that we can actually go and make sure we're checking on ourselves. So I tell anyone, yes, you might not be able to afford insurance, but at least go in and get a physical. And what entails with getting that physical is the ability to talk about health concerns that you otherwise would not talk about. The other piece is being able to get labs drawn. What will happen is they'll do a basic set of labs, and just with those labs alone, it will tell you where your state of health is and if something needs further investigation. So, for example, if someone is looking at your blood counts and your white blood cell counts are elevated, that could be an indication that there's infection somewhere. If you have some of those counts, which could be, let's say, your neutrophils, which might be undeveloped or low, that could be indicative that you're immunocompromised. So I'm bringing up the importance, if anything, that prevention is better than treatment, that living to fight another day means that we are taking care of our bodies and making sure that we are listening to our bodies and those early warning signs with making sure that we are getting them taken care of. It could be a simple fix, as you mentioned, Santita, just getting rest. But sometimes you have to remember that, yes, while getting to that job might seem urgent, getting to that event might seem urgent, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what if we don't make it because we're not putting ourselves first?
Amen. Amen. And I plead guilty. I know I haven't. And I'm going to rectify that. Because, you really need to take good care of yourself. Everybody. It improves the output that you take in, the good care that you take in for yourself. You'll be able to give other people even better care. You can really, really do much more when you are in optimal health, really. I love you, Pastor. Well, you know you are pastoral in your zeal. And of course, that is Dr. Shanita Knighton, infection preventionist. Everybody, meet her on social media. Hey, Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA. Big R, I'm going to get your comments about this Alabama riverboat dock brawl. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. What happened? I leave you for a couple of days and all these things break loose. But I heard some people say that, Trump is at fault. No, he's not. Trump is a symptom. Okay? And all of these politicians have used race and racism more than that in nefarious ways. They all have. It's just time for us to stop. And it's all designed to keep the 99% at odds with each other so the 1% can get more and more and more and more. We've seen the greatest wealth transfer in the history of humankind while we're fighting amongst ourselves. You got money going to Ukraine. I want to help everybody, get a democracy, but I want one right here. I need an executive order on my voting rights. How about that part? Yeah, that piece. What about police reform? What about that? While protecting police, protect me. Are you giving money to all these other countries? Americans need money. 7 million more Americans are hungry today. 7 million more than were in the past couple of years. Are you serious right now? Come on. Call me at 773-763-9278. What do you make of what happened in Alabama? Well, we talked to the state representative from Alabama, Mariko Holden, about that and this wonderful panel on the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773-763-WCPT. Back in just a minute. Okay. Hey.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Miss Jackson.
Yes. And so we'll come in with the audio.
Yes, we will. I'll start it off right with it. Attorney Hoffler thought she was on for the second segment. So she has us on mute, and I think she has.
We'll bring her on at 7. Absolutely. Okay. But she can listen.
Perfect.
Okay. So just let her know that.
Yes. Okay. I have State Representative Coleman on the line.
Okay,
I am in the process of getting Dwight McKee on the line.
Okay, fantastic. State Representative Coleman, how are you?
There you go. They should be patched now.
Okay, State Representative Coleman.
I'm here with a new position, though.
Okay, what are you now?
I'm a state senator now.
Oh! Deltas are in the house. Is Dr. Knighton still there?
That's right.
Dr. Knighton, sorors up in the house. Deltas are in the house. What? Yes. Love it.
This was just great for me.
Hey.
And sorors, look, we have a Supreme Court justice. Can't nobody touch us.
No, you really can't do this. Can't nobody mess with us.
Nobody can.
Oh, no. Oh, yes. I love it. I want you to meet this young woman, Dr. Shanita Knighton. She's an infection preventionist, a registered nurse. I'm so proud of this young woman. I don't think she's 40 years of age. And what she has done, she's the first person in her family, state senator, to graduate from high school, let alone get a PhD. College lecturer at Case Western Reserve. Oh, yeah. But she is among the few infection preventionists in the world. And what we have missed. Oh, what happened here? Okay, I can hear that. Okay. Oh, wait.
I can hear you.
Henry, I think we can hear you dialing. Okay.
Oh, so sorry.
No worries. What we have needed, and I want her to get around the country, we need to understand infection prevention. That will cut down on a lot of the illness we have in the society. Oh, Henry, we can still hear you dialing, honey.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. And first of all, you need to know that her position exists, right? So,
exactly.
Dr. Knighton.
Well, I need to get her with my daughter, actually.
Oh, okay. Dr. Knighton, and this is State Senator Coleman.
Yeah,
I'm going to connect you. May I connect you by text today?
Absolutely.
I will do that.
Perfect.
Oh, please keep talking. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm performing a task.
Congratulations. That is such a major accomplishment. She said, I got a new title.
Well, she's not going to
Yeah,
stop there.
new title. Thank you so much, and I appreciate.
Hi, Ms. Jackson.
We want to connect with you.
I have Dwight McKee on the line. I was not able to get a hold of Chappelle Wells yet.
Okay, no worries. And we have to keep on going.
All right, we'll do. We have about a minute, 2 minutes.
For internship, the last semester was in infectious disease prevention with our county here in Jefferson County. And so that is an interest of her as well. And again, I never knew that the type of position that you have exists. And so we thank you.
Exactly. That'll be amazing. And I would like to talk to her because right now, so my research focus is shifting to community. And one of the areas that I'm focused on now is hygiene poverty and its relationship to infections. And so the fact that people may not be able to afford adequate cleaning supplies, detergents, things like that, and how the unintended consequence is that they end up with infections because they can't clean their environment and themselves.
Wow. I love your work, good Cynthia, and I look forward to talking with you more, and especially.
All right, we have about a minute before the show. Just to remind myself, you want me to start the show right with the clip, right?
Yeah, what I'm aiming for.
Yes. Okay. Play the full thing, and then
I'll just come in.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I'll give you a note when it's about to end.
Like
Okay,
you're
thank you,
moving to
Of course.
And then, of course, 1 minute
hospital
before we
at
get off,
home.
music.
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, ladies.
So
No, you're fine.
it's okay. So they're moving to hospital at homes where they're providing, let's say, acute care inside of home care settings, but it's not equitable, and they're not thinking about the other services that should be subsidized.
Right. Oh, wow. Well, it's one of those things. Sometimes I say, "Ooh, it's always always something, always some additional things that we need to be working on." Mm-hmm.
But the beautiful thing that I always say is that many hands make
Stand by.
work. And so it's like if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, that you're passionate about, I'm passionate about what I'm supposed to be doing, and then we can find that synergy. Then to me, that's what always makes the world better.
Change the world.
That's exactly right.
Stand by.
We can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Welcome back to the Santita Jackson
Designated
Show.
space.
All right, here we go.
Designated and reserved due to the gangway access as well as the mooring requirements. The private boat was docked in its space, prohibiting safe docking of the Harriet. The captain of the Harriet remained away from the dock for nearly 40 to 45 minutes as he attempted to contact the operators of the private boat via PA system. They were only responded to with obscene gestures, curse words, and taunting. The co-captain was then picked up by a separate vessel and brought to the pier in an attempt to have a conversation with the private boat owners and or have those boats moved so that the Harriet could dock. A confrontation ensued between the co-captain and Mr. Pickett, the co-captain, being attacked by several members of the private boat. Several members of the Harriet II came to Mr. Pickett's defense, engaging in what we all have seen since on social media. 13 individuals were detained and brought to police headquarters for questioning and interviews. Those interviews lasted several hours. At that time, all parties involved were released pending further investigation, but were all given instructions on how to secure warrants on combatants. We have since consulted with and are continuing to work with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, our state police agency, the Montgomery DA's office, and the local office of the FBI. This investigation is ongoing and more charges are likely. at this time, based on the way the statutes read and the way the laws are crafted, we were unable to present any inciting a riot or racially biased charges at this time. The victims in this case, the co-captain, Mr. Damian Pickett, black male, and a 16-year-old white male juvenile who was struck by the owners and operators of the private boat. The suspects thus far have been identified as Richard Roberts, white male, 48 years old, with 2 outstanding warrants for assault, 3rd degree.
We got a minute left.
Alan Todd, white male, 23 years old, 1 warrant for assault, 3rd degree. And Zachary Shipman, white male, 25 years old, 1 warrant for assault, 3rd degree. We have instructed those individuals to turn themselves into law enforcement, and as at this time, 1 is secured and in custody. The other 2 are set to turn themselves in within the next hour. We are also asking for Mr. Reggie Gray, the black male, 42 years old, who was seen wielding that folding chair, to contact the Montgomery Police Department for further interviews and as part of this investigation.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Keep Hope Alive. Keep Hope Alive. Goodness gracious. This is what happens when you work 7 days a week. But this is the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. You just heard Montgomery Police Chief Daryl Albert describe what happened, according to their investigation thus far, in Montgomery, Alabama, on the riverboat dock on Saturday. You know that the co-captain of this Harriet riverboat, that he asked these people on this pontoon, on this private little boat, to move. They were sitting in the dock. And the people, the paying passengers on this riverboat, couldn't get off. So he went through extraordinary measures. A boat came to his boat so that he could go to the dock and appeal to them. Then this guy jumps off that boat, starts to beat him down, and then everybody jumps off the pontoon and they beat him. And so it's like, wait a minute. And the black folks said, wait a minute, this is like, this is a lynch mob. So you have a teenage boy who jumps into the water, young Aaron, and he swims across, because this is embedded in our DNA. We see this, black folks see this and go, oh my gosh, wait a minute, this is not going to end well. I got to do what I can. It didn't even have to go down like this. Call me at 773-763-9278. Let me go to Big R before I go to State Senator, Mariko Coleman. Big R, what's on your mind today, sweetie?
Good morning, Santita.
Good morning, sir.
By the way, I'd like to comment real fast that you have some wonderful guest hosts the last couple of days. I love it when you do have guest hosts. They're always good quality shows, just like yours. As far as the Alabama brawl, you're welcome. As far as the Alabama brawl, it's just another manifestation of 2 things: good old white privilege, and 2, number 45 giving folks to the thought that they can thumb their nose at the law and at rules and regulations that everybody else has to follow. I'm sure those gentlemen, I'm using that term lightly, had a little liquid courage in them. Now, if the brother that was there, the co-captain, they always look for, cowards always look for a soft target in all manners and forms. If that brother, he looked like he was maybe in his 40s, maybe early 50s, a little bit out of shape, whatnot. If that brother was like 6'5", 6'6", looked like he loved going to the weight room 3 or 4 times a week, like he could run through a brick wall and just wipe the dust off of him, I'm sure they wouldn't have jumped him the way they did. They knew they had an easy target.
I have to disagree
and they decided to jump on it.
Well, with all due respect, let me just interrupt you there. I don't want you to. I want you to finish your comment.
Sure.
I think
I love your opinions. Go ahead.
And I love yours. That's why I'm glad you're calling in today. I mean, the big black buck gets killed on the plantation, right? So you can be as muscle bound as you want to be. Look, George Floyd was a basketball player. Tall, lean, in shape, dead.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean,
But
and also,
this is a situation where these weren't policemen. These weren't policemen
no, but I'm just
badges
saying,
and legal right to carry a firearm.
I hear you, but also I think that we've got to be very careful not to put everything on Donald Trump, because you absolve the rest of America's history of what they have done.
That's true too.
I mean, because he didn't
That's
start
very
this
true.
fire. He is a great marketer. All he did was stoke the fires, which is something that all the
Yeah, he threw
Democratic and
gasoline on
Republican
it. He threw
candidates have
gasoline on
done.
it.
Democratic and Republican candidates have been doing it for decades. That's what they do. 2 weeks after, or was it 2 weeks to 2 months? Certainly, well within 2 months of Rodney King nearly being killed by the police. Who went on the floor of the U.S. Senate with a police officer's Bill of Rights? Well, we're protesting, saying you can't let this happen to Rodney King or anyone else again. You know who did that? Our president right now, because he wanted to stand up for the police who almost killed this man.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God
Yeah,
for the gentleman who decided to look
tragic.
out of his. Oh, it's awful, but I'm saying all these people have been playing these games.
There's too many games out here instead of people
Yeah.
just doing what's right instead of what's wrong, and just living by truth.
Yeah,
that's what's going on. It's just too many politics. They even injected politics into the U.S. women's soccer team. They really did. Back to the Alabama brawl right quick, and I'll get back to the soccer team. I was so proud of all the brothers who jumped in on that and said, well, nope, not today. Not today. Young brother in the water swimming over to help this gentleman. And everybody looking at this. Some were taking to put out the old camera phones and taking, documenting it. But they jumped in and said, no, not today, son.
And he was a child.
And I was really
boy
proud.
who swam.
I was really proud of that.
Well, that boy who swam, he's a child. He's in high school. He's a child.
Right.
He's not a young brother.
And
He's
he
a young
recognized the
son.
injustice of it, and he go get him instead of melee. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the soccer team, and then let you get your other call.
Okay.
Rapinoe, God bless her. Her legacy is not going to be tainted by her miss. It was kind of ironic. That's why she kind of laughed instead of cried. She wanted. She was laughing so she wouldn't cry. Sure. She cried later.
Sure.
From what I saw of the U.S. women's team. They just didn't have the fire that they've had in the past. I don't know what it was. The cohesion wasn't there because when they played Denmark, I think it was Denmark the first game, they tied with a 0-0 tie, whatever. And then they played Portugal. I did not see the energy. Portugal was quicker to the ball.
Sure.
I mean, one of the Portuguese women hit the right post that could have ended the game. It would have been 1-0 Portugal. They just didn't have it. They were not going to win a championship this year, but they're a very good young team, and they will be back. They will be back, and they hopefully will have a chip on their shoulder. The greatest victory that the U.S. women's team did was in the past get serious with the powers that be men who control the finances of women's soccer and men's soccer in this country when they said, look, we won 2 championships in a row. The men haven't won anything, and you're paying them, 2-3 times more than us?
Absolutely. Well, you know what?
That was their greatest victory.
Big R, I got you. And, you know, you are absolutely right. And we're going to do another show on that because I think that that's still important. And Megan Rapinoe, I love you. I'm not mad at you. And it's a young team. You just said it. They're a young team, inexperienced team.
I'm not either.
So, but I got Big R, I got to pivot to Alabama, sweetie. Yeah. I gave you 2 topics.
Okay.
All right.
It was a classic choke job, and all athletes do it. It was just a classic choke job.
No, they just
I still love them, though.
No, I love them, and they were beaten.
And they're going to be fine.
They were beaten, and it's okay. You win some, you lose some.
That adrenaline and that pressure will make you choke sometimes.
Stop, Big R. Now, you're not going to talk all the way through the next segment. I love you, sweetie. State Senator Mariko Coleman, talk to me. I love Big R, and I think he's making some great points. What happened in Alabama? What happened?
Well, of course. Hey, so State Senator Mariko Coleman, I am just elated to be on the show with you. We hadn't been on the show together in a while.
It's been a minute.
But unfortunately, or fortunately, though, we are talking about the Montgomery brawl. I had the privilege of listening yesterday morning to the young lady, Lauren Spivey, that took the video. I mean, because that's also a testament of why we need to pull our videos or our phones out to get this video.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you watched it, like a lot of your listening audience did, the police came at the second interaction, at the second fight. The police did not intervene when the private owners of the platoon boat were beating up and decimating our brother, who was our co-captain. They didn't show up then. It was the second interaction. And in that interaction, it almost appeared that the black men were the aggressors, and that was not the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm a political science professor. On Monday was our first day back in class, and this was the talk of all of my classes also. My students, we're talking about, is there a public policy indication here? And of course, 100% there is. Are there racial implications here? I would stretch and say, yes, 100% there are. And I disagree with your last caller also when he said that had this been the big black group, they would not have attacked. Yes, they would have. They thought they were emboldened. They knew our co-captain was outnumbered, and they felt they had the right to stay in a place where indeed that is where the Harriet was supposed to be docking. So what I saw was the same thing everybody saw, was that when black folk saw that distress signal go up, when that hat was thrown up, it was all hands on deck. And again, unfortunately or fortunately, it happens. Sometimes we need things like this to happen, so folks can say, we're not just swinging low anymore; we're swinging high. And I don't condone violence at all. That's not the last physical altercation I had was in the 11th grade in high school. That's the last time somebody stepped to me and I finished it. That was good. I don't condone violence. As adults, that is not the way that we are supposed to resolve conflict. But in this particular situation, I'm a lawyer also, so I can't say technically 100% it was warranted. But if you have to defend yourself, you just have to defend yourself. Or if you have to defend your brother or your sister. And that's what happened in this situation.
Well, I mean, because what was he supposed to do? I mean, look, I am not just a student of nonviolence. I'm a proponent of it. But if someone, not just one, if the whole boat then jumps off and they start to beat you, what you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do?
You are supposed to, and not only you're supposed to, you have a right to. You have a legal right to defend yourself. And those initial folks, too, that came in, they had a right to come in and to step in the place of the person who was getting beat. There's also a self-defense argument there as well, because he was severely outnumbered. And I have to go ahead and mention Aquaman also, our young buck that swam in. You want to talk about a superstar, a superhero, real life superhero, where he did not think about himself or even his own safety. He jumped in that water to help. And this is not his brother. This would be his father or his uncle. His grandfather almost. This is a 16-year-old. From all accounts that we're hearing. He was 16 years old, a child. And evidently the folks that the white folks in the private vote, they did not read the tea leaves. They couldn't read the room. Because how in the world did they think that they were going to jump one man in front of all these black folks? Because you remember you had black people that were in line waiting to get on the hair. Mm-hmm. How in the world did they think that they were going to do that and there not be any repercussions? How do you do that? Except for that you are emboldened. You said it earlier. Trump is a symptom of what's going on in this country right now. And there are some folks that their privilege is privileging. It is live and in living color. They feel emboldened about what's going on in this country right now. And I think the Montgomery brawl was probably a check-in to bring them into a reality that, there are other folks in this country that have the same rights that you have. Matter of fact, some of us would contend we're the ones that built this country. So how dare you? How dare you
it's not a
attack
contention.
one of our brothers?
It's a fact. It's a fact. It's not a contention.
It is a fact.
America became a superpower because of 200 plus years of unpaid labor, not free labor. We were never paid for it. We're owed. But because of unpaid labor, America got to be a superpower. You'll be a
100.
superpower too if people work for you and you don't have to pay them. And then you can have
That's
babies
correct.
by them and
100%.
increase their population so that you can have some more folks to work for you. You got to tell the whole story, Mariko.
That's right. That's right. And we have to keep telling that story. Now, some of those folks don't want to hear that history. That's why what we have going on in Florida with DeSantis, or however you say his name. There was a debate this morning about
DeSantis, right.
how you pronounce his name. There's this huge debate about it. They don't want folks to know that history. We're going through the same thing in Alabama. They're not calling it critical race theory in Alabama and other southern states. It's not just Florida. They're calling it divisive concepts. That in the schools, anything that's divisive. Well, the history of this country is divisive. And if you want to know the real history of this country, you have to teach Black history, Native American history, Hispanic history, because all of it is American history. Some of that history is quite ugly.
I mean, because right now, I mean, and you see, and that's what I'm saying, stop putting it on Trump, because you make Trump, you make him the reason all of this is happening, and you absolve everybody else of responsibility.
That's correct. And let me tell you what else was going on in Alabama, right? Just a couple of weeks before the brawl. I serve as a member of the legislature, one of only 35 Black people out of 140 members in the legislature, only 7 Black people in the Senate that I serve in out of 35.
Wait. Hold on. What are the percentages? What is the percentage of Black people in the state?
27%, almost 28% Black, and that's where I'm getting ready to go to.
Okay, because
what the Supreme Court has told us.
Because I want to give you runway on this, because now you're supposed to have at least one more congressperson. You're supposed to have at least one more.
That's where I was going.
Okay, no, it's just
Correct.
At least one more. And you are, and everybody in Alabama that I have talked to wants you to be that person. One of my dear personal friends is already, attorney, I mean, I have known Attorney Terry Sewell. We go back 40 years. And so she's very, very different than mine. And she's she's a dear, dear human being. Wrong sorority, but that's another story. Love her.
That's it. But she wears her red all the time, and I check her every time she has a red on. Yes, she's doing an amazing job in the U.S. Congress. Very proud that sister is representing us in Alabama, but she needs help. We only have 9 members of our delegation, only 1 Black, 1 Democrat. And so the Supreme Court has agreed with the 3-judge panel that based on our population, we should have 1 more majority minority district in the state of Alabama. So we just got out of a special session, and the Republican supermajority decided to throw up a middle finger to the Supreme Court and said, we're going to do what we want to do. So they passed a map, listen now, that lessens the percentage of Black voting age population in Terry Sewell's district, the existing district, and only created a second district that had 38.9% Black voting age population instead of the 50% plus 1 that they were directed to do by the Supreme Court. So they just decided we're going to do what we want to do. So we're in court on that particular issue. And I thank those folks from around the state. And I have had people to contact me, both in state and out of state, asking, was I considering running for that 2nd congressional seat? We are in the exploratory phase, and that's where we are. But right now, of course, we have to get the maps correct. And what our hope is that the 3-judge panel will direct the special master now to draw the maps, because it's crazy that we had plaintiffs, the Castor plaintiffs and the Milligan plaintiffs, that won their cases, presented 11 maps to the Supreme Court, 11 that show that we have the ability in the state of Alabama to have 2 majority minority districts, but the Alabama Republicans decided to defy that. So we're still in court about it. And, as we always do as Black folks, when somebody puts their foot on our neck, we come out swinging harder. So we're fighting.
State Senator Mariko Coleman. We got a lot to talk about. Dwight McKee, I know you want to weigh in on this. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Legal Q&A with C.K. I want you to meet Attorney C.K. Hoffler. Got to raise some money for you. Yes, my show, so I can do that. And because we need more representation in Congress. And perhaps when you hear about Black people fighting for their rights, maybe this is deep down inside. This is a reaction to that. But you saw all these white men jump off this boat to beat down this one Black guy. I'm like, how can you even think that that's fair? I mean, are you serious right now? And to be fair, I know a lot of white people, I've seen them on social media, who thought this was absolutely outrageous. A lot. So let's not paint, don't paint with a broad brush and say this is white people thinking. No, that's not true. That is not true. But it is privilege thinking. And we need to deal with that. And you got to look at Aaron Rudolph, this teenage boy who jumped in that water. I can cry when I think about this child. He's a child who jumped in that water because something in him knew that that could be my daddy, it could be my uncle, it could be my brother, it could be me, it could be my mother, it could be my sister, it could be anybody. I see this. I recognize this for what it is, and if I have to lose my life, I'm going to try and save his. You all think about that. That's who we are. Come on, America, you got to go up. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes, talking with Alabama State Senator Marika Coleman. Back in just a minute with Legal Q&A with CK. CK Hoffler? Okay, let's bring up Attorney Hoffler. Attorney Hoffler?
Good morning, Santita. Good morning, everyone.
I want you to meet State Senator Coleman. We got to raise some money for her because everybody in Alabama wants her to get this congressional seat, and it will be a great thing for her to get it. I want you to meet her, and we need to talk to her because she needs our support. So, State Senator Marika Coleman, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, you all consider yourselves hail fellow well met, and I'm going to connect you all by text.
Yes.
Right
Please
now.
do. Okay. Please do. I look forward to it.
Okay,
Wonderful.
you all keep talking.
I look forward to it. And so you're there with Fred Gray. You're there with Fred Gray, one of our past presidents of the National Bar. I thought of him. I'm a past president too. I thought of him immediately when this happened. And some of the Alabama lawyers that we have in the National Bar Association, because when I look at this situation, your laws may not make it clear, and the jury's still out on whether this can be classified as a hate crime, but there's a federal hate crime. There it is right there. There's a federal hate crime statute, a federal hate crime statute. We saw the prosecution of Ahmaud Arbery's case. That's why it was vitally important. And many of us were standing using all of our platforms to make sure that the Justice Department understood, do not take a plea on the federal hate crime case. Try that case because America needs to see and understand what a hate crime looks like. You have criminal activity and then you have hate crime. So this is a hate crime. And again, I'm not sanguine on, I've been doing research and it doesn't appear that you all statutorily, and I think the mayor and others who spoke to this, have the ability or the elements or whatever to bring a hate crime. And look, Georgia only got a hate crime bill as a result of Ahmaud Arbery being murdered. But, but that's why we have a federal statute. And I surely hope the Justice Department is looking at this case because I know the FBI was involved and will consider bringing this case as a hate crime. Because if ever there were a hate crime, this is a hate crime. I'm pretty certain, I don't know, but there were racially insensitive comments being yelled
Hi, Ms. Jackson.
at this gentleman.
We have Attorney Mark Fancher, Attorney Daryl Jones, and Reverend Thurston ready to go.
Okay. Even for folks that are talking about the man that was swinging the chair, we don't know what was being said to him. We have no idea what was being said to them.
Oh yeah,
even before he was swinging the chair, I'm saying the dockmaster, the gentleman who was trying to persuade them to move their boats. I'm saying that's where there would need to be racial animus, right at that point. In other words, the whole motivation, which I'm pretty sure there was. It doesn't take much. I'm pretty sure that at that moment, when he was trying to get them to comply with the rules, that they were yet cussing and calling him all kinds of this and that.
He was all of that.
I know he was.
He was, come
you
on
know,
now.
that
he
is
was
where
all that.
That
and
is
baby,
what would
and
bring.
it was, wait a minute, it was on and cracking. I didn't say on. It was on and cracking. Because them black folks heard that. And let me tell you something, whenever you see black men walking, skipping, and lifting their pants, you need to run for your life.
or black women taking their earrings off.
Oh, wait a minute.
Or black women taking their earrings off.
No Vaseline. Because wait a minute. Now I got to tell on CK. Now CK with her sables in St. John. Yeah.
Oh,
No. It's the truth. Because it's all that. That crazy look will come in your eye, Dwight McKee, Attorney Fancher, Attorney Jones. Reverend Thurston. You go. Something happens to you, and you go. What you just say to me? Wait a minute. Or what'd you say?
That's right.
What you just say?
The switch split.
No, the word I use is excuse me.
What? No. Wait, what? Huh?
3 minutes.
And you will leap over a tall building and just get your hands around someone's neck.
But in a single bound. Leap over a tall building in a single bound.
Oh gosh, Lord help me.
Hi, Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Do you want me to play the clip at the top of the show again?
From Selma, Alabama.
Yeah.
Where
We're going to go right into it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, we have Jones. Okay, all right, let me make sure I have everybody. Jones. Fancher.
Good morning.
And we have Pastor Thurston.
I'm here.
Okay. Dwight McKee.
Yeah.
Daddy D is on as well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But but State Senator Coleman is going to have to leave, so I'm going to give her, let her speak at the top, and we're going to hear introductory remarks from Chief Albert, and then we're going to be off to the races, so everybody can say what they have to say. But Dwight, we certainly want to get your social view, and we're going to get right to it. Okay, so we are ready. Okay, Marika and CK, I just connected you, and I am about to send you Shanina, Dr. Knighton's number.
Back in 60.
Okay. So
okay.
Call her too. This is one of the blessings of the show, to be able to connect people to one another.
Yes.
So, okay.
Stand by.
Okay. We're going right in with it.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
The incident occurred between the co-captain of the Harrier II vessel and a private boat owner and his family. As the Harrier attempted to dock in its designated space, designated and reserved due to the gangway access, as well as the mooring requirements, the private boat was docked in its space, prohibiting safe docking of the Harrier. The captain of the Harrier remained away from the dock for nearly 40 to 45 minutes as they attempted to contact the operators of the private boat via PA system. They were only responded to with obscene gestures, curse words, and taunting. The co-captain was then picked up by a separate vessel and brought to the pier in an attempt to have a conversation with the private boat owners and or have those boats moved so that the Harriet could dock. A confrontation ensued between the co-captain and Mr. Pickett, the co-captain, being attacked by several members of the private boat. Several members of the Harriet II came to Mr. Pickett's defense, engaging in what we all have seen since on social media. 13 individuals were detained and brought to police headquarters for questioning and interviews. Those interviews lasted several hours. At that time, all parties involved were released pending further investigation, but were all given instructions on how to secure warrants on combatants. We have since consulted with and are continuing to work with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, our state police agency, the Montgomery's DA's office, and the local office of the FBI. This investigation is ongoing and more charges are likely at this time based on the way the statutes read and the way the laws are crafted. We were unable to present any inciting a riot or racially biased charges at this time. The victims in this case, the co-captain, Mr. Damian Pickett, black male, and a 16-year-old white male juvenile who was struck by the owners and operators of the private boat. The suspects thus far have been identified as Richard Roberts, white male, 48 years old, with 2 outstanding warrants for assault, 3rd degree. Alan Todd, white male, 23 years old, 1 warrant for assault, 3rd degree. And Zachary Shipman, white male, 25 years old, 1 warrant for assault, 3rd degree. We have instructed those individuals to turn themselves into law enforcement, and as at this time, 1 is secured and in custody. The other 2 are set to turn themselves in within the next hour. We are also asking for Mr. Reggie Gray, the black male, 42 years old, who was seen wielding that folding chair, to contact the Montgomery Police Department for further interviews and as part of this investigation.
Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. The voice you heard was the Montgomery Alabama Police Chief Daryl Albert, describing what happened on Saturday on the dock in Montgomery, Alabama, that iconic city. Of course, it's Legal Q&A with CK. We have got Attorney CK Hoffler. We have got Dwight McKee, Daddy D. We cannot wait to hear from Dr. D. Cannot wait to hear from Attorney Daryl Jones and Attorney Mark Fancher and Pastor, Stephen Thurston. From New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church, sending you so much love today. But I know, State Senator, you have to leave us, Alabama State Senator Marika Coleman. So I want you to give us you've been with us for the past 30 minutes. What should we know as you help to guide the discussion as you take your leave?
Sure. I would ask your listening audience, after hearing the police chief, just to think about the relevance and the irony and just the location of all of this. When you think about the folks that had the private boat, they're from Selma, Alabama, the place where John Lewis was billy clubbed on the Edmund Pettus Bridge while he was doing good trouble. The location of the brawl itself was at the docks where slaves were bought and sold. But on August the 5th, 2023, Black people said we shall not be moved. And I want us to also recognize the symptom of what's going on in this country when it comes to, you talked earlier, Santita, about Trump, but the white privilege and the hate is running rampant in our country right now. And Black folks are saying we shall not be moved. That's what that was an example of. We've got to take this country back. We have to save our democracy. Very proud of what just happened in Ohio with one of the votes they just took. But in Alabama, we're still fighting. We had a Republican supermajority that defied the Supreme Court and did not create the second majority Black district that they should have done. But we will not be moved. I chair the Alabama Legislative Black Caucus. I'm a freshman state senator, but I've served in the Alabama legislature for 20 years, and they refused to treat me as a freshman. So they elected me as the chair of the 35 Black members of the Alabama legislature, 35 out of 140. And you know what? We shall not be moved. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to fight for our rights as it relates to redistricting. And we're going to support those brothers and sisters that some of them have lost their jobs that work for the Riverboat. We're fighting to make sure that they get those jobs. And we're going to fight, and we're actually asking attorneys in the state of Alabama if any of those folks that were a part of the brawl that were defending the co-captain, if they are charged, that folks will be willing to take those cases pro bono. And as we were talking in the break.
Why did they lose their jobs?
There's some people that lost their jobs.
Why?
That lost their jobs.
Why?
And so, I don't know if they have a no tolerance policy. I have no idea what their policy is, but some folks have lost their jobs. So we're fighting to make sure that those folks are able to maintain their employment, that were simply defending their coworker. What else would the riverboat operator have them to do? Just continue to watch him be, beaten. And so we're fighting to make sure that they keep those jobs. And anybody, again, we're asking attorneys out there that will be willing to take those cases pro bono if indeed someone is. Some of the folks that were defending our co-captain are charged. And so that's where we're asking. We shall not be moved, and we will continue to fight in the state of Alabama. We're asking our brothers and sisters around the country to fight with us. The same amount of energy that they're putting in all of these memes and videos, we need you all to put that energy in fighting these Supreme Court cases and supporting our brothers and sisters here in Alabama. Quit memeing and start writing letters.
And raise some money, because you're running for Congress. Well, indeed, people want you to run for Congress, and I want you to get there. And I mentioned, I responded to someone who put this at the feet of Trump. This is not Trump. Trump is a symptom.
Yep.
He's a symptom, y'all, and stop it. Just stop it. You act as if within 2 months of the beating of Rodney King, that the sitting president did not go into the U.S. Senate floor and present a police officer's Bill of Rights while we're sitting up here worried about Rodney King, who is now dead. I mean, come on, y'all. Really? Y'all act like racism started in 2016. Let's not be historically lazy. I love you. You got to have you back. It might even be tomorrow, because I don't see this story going anywhere anytime soon. State Senator Marika Coleman, everybody, out of Alabama, sending her much love. C.K. Hoffler, if you let me just
thank you so much.
Oh, I'm loving you. I love you. I love you, Soror. Just had to say
love you, my Soror.
Just had to say it. Come on, Delta's in the house. And just had to say that, but there we go. But Attorney C.K. Hoffler, I want to bring on Dr. Dwight McKee, and then I'm passing on to you. Dwight McKee, what have you? Because I know every time he's on, C.K.'s going to pivot to you anyway. So there we go.
Well, I think we do ourselves such a disservice by trying to blame Donald Trump for something like this. I mean, Montgomery is named after a Confederate general. It was the capital of the Confederacy. It was the home of Jefferson Davis. It was the same city they wouldn't let Rosa Parks ride on the front of the bus. It's where the Montgomery boycott started with Dr. King. You do yourself such a disservice where you don't understand the historical context of what you're dealing with. And it's like the sister said, those riverboats used to be slave ships. And they would dock there to bring slaves from Africa. So this didn't start with Donald Trump. This is hundreds of years old. And this white privilege is embedded in the culture, in the DNA of many of those white people down there, who was raised in that lost cause mentality. So that's a lot of what you was experiencing, is even though the co-captain told him to move that boat. That was classic Dred Scott, that a black man has no rights that a white man have to respect.
Dwight, for 40 minutes.
And if you don't get out of here.
Dwight, for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
He had this big ship.
Yeah, with the ship right outside that.
Hey, y'all, hold on. Do you know what a pontoon is? And all they need are some oars, okay? It's just a little boat. This man had a riverboat, a ship. And we got on the speaker, Dwight, CK, Pastor Thurston, attorneys Fancher and Jones, and asked them to move. And they refused for 40 plus minutes. Who does that? Huh?
And slapped him for having the gall to ask them to move.
Oh, wow.
So this is just classical white supremacy, that mentality. And even a lot of white people say they were really out of order. You know, they couldn't believe that they had this kind of attitude. But what we really saw, to me, was the function at the junction. Is all the soul brothers. You saw Ling Ching Chong from China, Long Tall Sally from Carolina, 007. All of the brethren showed up for this one. And they avenged that white privilege. And so I think that the moral of the story for me is that when they go low, you may get hit by a chair.
Well, you know what makes me sad is that, given that it is in Montgomery, and I hear you, Dr. King warned us that we could get here, which is why when his house was bombed with his wife and baby daughter in it, and people met him at his home because he had to leave a church service to get home to just, Lord Jesus, is my wife alive? Is my baby alive? Is Yolanda, is Yoki alive? He said, no, put your guns down.
And this is the same one.
Well, no, let me say this. He said, put your guns down and go home. We're not going to, because we're outgunned, we're outmanned. And, but I think you've got to, that's why I played Police Chief Albert, CK. If you don't mind, Dwight, because we only have about 10 minutes, well, not even 10, about 7 minutes left in the segment. 40 minutes, this man beseeched them to move. And Pastor Thurston, I want you to think about that. Attorney Jones, Attorney Fancher, 40 minutes plus, CK. And they wouldn't move. They refused to move. Refused. I mean, and I'm like, where were the police? Well, somebody, CK? Hmm?
Santita, I often say, sometimes we try to find reason where there is no reason. There is not going to be any reason that will be extracted from what happened. It was completely unconscionable, unacceptable. And for those who were there at that moment, they recognized it. They moved swiftly and quickly to protect someone who would have been a George Floyd or at a minimum a Rodney King. That would have been the narrative, but for the intervention. So I say this when we peel back and look at this from a legal standpoint just a moment, because it's the cross-section between social justice and the law, which is by definition, I believe, what social justice is. But when we peel this back to its core, I believe what the evidence is going to show is that the initial actions were motivated by racial animus. A lot of times we say, oh, of course it was. No. This is evidence now. And because this was captured on film, because we have living witnesses that can speak to what was said to the gentleman who was working the docks, who was trying to get the other voters to comply with the rules, comply with the law, I'm sure that there were racial epithets, racially insensitive comments that were made, and it was racially motivated. That is the trigger for the federal hate crime statute to come into play, much like it did in the Ahmaud Arbery case. That's the trigger along the way, from the beginning, racial motivation. That's why it was so important, Daryl Jones, as you know, for all of us who are fighting and looking at the federal prosecution of those defendants that killed Ahmaud Arbery to ensure that the Justice Department went through with the litigation surrounding hate crime so that the country could understand the distinction between regular criminal activity, which is bad enough when it results in murder, and hate crime, because it is distinctly different. It is motivated, inspired, and executed upon by a hatred of an individual or a group based on color, based on creed, based on sexual orientation, and other categories. So, in my book, Santita, this is a hate crime. These are hate crimes. From what I understand from the limited research, and I am not licensed in Alabama, but I have shortly reached out to my National Bar members in Alabama for two reasons. One, to find out, and I understand the Alabama statutes do not allow, under these facts, a hate crime to be passed. Well, it didn't either in Georgia until Ahmaud Arbery was brutally killed. So that Alabama is at this point is not surprising because many states don't have hate crime statutes. But the federal law would allow. That's number one. And secondly, the reason why I reached out to some of my NBA members in Alabama is because I suspected that there would be people who would need legal representation pro bono. And just as Fred Gray, many, many years ago, represented many of our iconic civil rights leaders, he's got a firm, and he has sons, he has people at his firm. I reached out to a number of people to see if they will take on some of these cases. I don't even know if they need representation, but I just guess that they do.
Well, now we do.
And then finally,
because these people have been fired from the boat.
Well, right, but that is something that I learned this morning.
Yeah,
I would anticipate people would need legal representation because they would be brought up on criminal charges. That's what I was expecting. Because when you are a good Samaritan, and that's what I would call these people, they're good Samaritans. Good Samaritans, that's a legal term that we see in cases. Good Samaritans, people who put themselves in a position to help a fellow human being. Let's talk about just helping a fellow human being. And the irony of where it happened, the symbol of where it happened, reminds me of Goree Island in Senegal, where there are probably ships going straight from Goree to the Montgomery. And when I think about all of the ironies of this situation, it just means that we need a strong legal framework to help those who were good Samaritans who decided not to go. This is not going to happen in 2023 on my watch. And for that young man, and there are conflicting reports whether he was African American or not, for that young man who's 16 years old, jumped in the water and swam to help.
Aaron Rudolph.
Oh, yes, he is
Aaron Rudolph, a young black teenager. Yeah.
He's a young black teenager, but I've also heard reports that he may not have been. I don't know, but I believe he's a young black teenager.
I saw
it doesn't matter what
the photograph, and just to bring you up to speed, because the story continues to evolve. His parents are not allowing him to do interviews at this time.
And as well, they should not, because his life is his family, and anyone associated with him, they are being threatened right now as we speak. We don't need Dale Jones. We don't need to go far. We were just at the National Bar Convention where all of us were threatened. They threatened to take out over 1,000 lawyers and judges in Minneapolis. We were down the street from where George Floyd was murdered. We were threatened. Our lives were threatened.
See, I've got 2 minutes before the break. No, but let's see, Daryl Jones, you just jumped in 2 minutes before we go to break. Daryl?
No, I mean, CK is right on it. You know, we were down in Minneapolis and the threats were there. So it's all very real. And, you know, as I think CK has lifted this up, you know, while, you know, we talk about, you know, the pride and everything else that folks stepped in to help out the dock employee who was being attacked, it was a federal hate crime. And the question now is, we know the FBI is involved. But the question now is, how involved will they become? Because we know that when they became involved with Ahmaud Arbery, it didn't stop at just investigating the incident. Because once they get the charges, once they start the investigation, they can start to go into these people's computers and see the hate and the ill will that they have been harboring, and all of this that came out at the dock there in this Alabama incident. So all of this, I think, really has got to be dealt with. Why does it have to be dealt with? Not just for this one incident, which was horrible that occurred, but it's to dissuade similar behavior anywhere that happens, not just in Alabama, but anywhere in the country. So that's the reason why this investigation is so important. That's the reason why it's important to do the federal hate crimes investigation in this case, and to put Alabama on notice as to what will happen if similar activities continue and it happens again. That's what we need to be talking about, I think, in this matter, Santita.
Well, yeah, I think we need to be talking. Attorney Darrell Jones, and of course, legal Q&A with CK, and I cannot wait to hear from you, Attorney Mark Fancher. Oh boy, and Pastor Stephen Thurston. Pastor Stephen Thurston's grandfather was part of a group of Black ministers who left or were they put out, Stephen? the National Baptist Convention because they seriously, the biggest Black religious convention in the United States split over support for Dr. King. And his grandfather was part of the split. And they created the Progressive Baptist Convention, which his father became president of years later, a generation later. Oh, this is real. So what should the church's response be to all of this? And I'm gonna continue to push on nonviolence, everybody. That's so important. That's so important. That having been said, people have a right to defend themselves. But we're gonna have to come to the right resolution. We're gonna live together as brothers and sisters or die apart as fools. It's our choice. Choose or lose. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show on Legal Q&A with CK. Just a minute. Okay, CK, you should go to Mark Fancher and then, of course, to Pastor Stephen Thurston, because Pastor Thurston's grandfather, they put Dr. King out of, and Dwight remembers this, he was but a child, but you were growing up in the church. They put him out of the National Baptist Convention. And somebody leading up to that, and Stephen and I have heard about it because, of course, we were not around. There was a physical fight at the National Baptist Convention, and somebody died, right? Because they were knocked out the pulpit.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean,
That's right.
am I wasn't right, Pastor Thurston? I mean, it was crazy.
In Detroit.
Okay.
In Detroit.
Okay. So I mean, there were
amazing.
I mean, because the head of the National Baptist Convention hated Dr. King with a passion. Joseph Jackson, who was a huge pastor here in Chicago, and Stephen knows the story better than anybody.
Yeah.
Hated him passionately.
This is a topic that's not going anywhere. This is going to be with us for a while.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be with us for a while because when this story unfolds, I say, unfortunately, there are probably going to be some Black folks going to be charged. I mean, I think we have to talk about that. That's real. That are going to be charged, and along with some of the, of course, the white folks that instigated this. But I think it's going to be largely white because it's systemic of what's going on in this country. I don't even mention Donald Trump in this discussion. We don't need to talk about Donald Trump.
Well, Darryl, to be fair, Darryl Prunty said it didn't start in 2016. One man named Trump put it more front and center at this time. And it's just, to me, that's just debatable because, when I mentioned what Biden did with the police, I mean, and let's go back to, that was 92. That was 92 when Rodney King was beaten half to death. I mean, the country, we were up in arms about that. And then you have, this was a right-wing move that then Senator Biden, Dwight, you remember it? He went into the well of the Senate and said, no, the police need rights. He presented a police officer's Bill of Rights. Don't get mad at me. I'm saying, don't act like, we don't make Trump everything. And y'all forget about everything that everybody else has done. All the games that people have played. that could have gotten us killed. To prove a point in the middle of the 92 primary season, Clinton went back because Reverend Jackson was supposed to run in 92. He was a presumptive front runner, but he spent a lot of the campaign beating Reverend down. Now I love the Clintons because, look, we learned about power. We have a great relationship with them. We really do. But in order to prove his point, he went and killed Ricky Ray Rector. You remember that, CK?
Back at 60.
This was Dwight and Mark Fancher. You remember he was a developmentally disabled child. That's where his mind was. What was he going to do to anybody? We begged him not to go back and put him in the electric chair, but to prove his point, to be tough on crime. That's what he did. Y'all don't make this. When you make it about Trump, you forget everybody else and you absolve everybody else. And I think that that's a mistake. But CK, you've got Mark Fancher. Whoo, my word. And Pastor Stephen Thurston. I can't wait. I'm so glad you all are here this morning. You make my life so much easier. I just love this.
Well, why don't we start with Mark? And then I'm with Pastor Thurston to round out the comments when we come back from a break. And I'm just sitting in my seat, just can't wait to hear what they have to say. I don't want to have to fall over in my seat. You know what I mean? But I'm just sitting in my seat.
Stand by.
We're coming in. We can
change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
To a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Good morning. The Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want to thank my radio stations for their support, for allowing for giving me the space to have this show, and for us to be able to have this conversation. And I just want to give a shout out to my home stations for allowing that, for facilitating this discussion. To, of course, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Legal Q&A with C.K. We have got Attorney Darrell Jones, Chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, noted social scientist Dwight McKee. We have got Attorney Darrell Jones, Chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. We have got pastor of New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church. So excited. Pastor Stephen Thurston, and we have got Attorney Mark Fancher. CK, take it away.
Well, I'd love to hear from Attorney Mark Fancher because he always brings such a magnificent perspective to this discussion. And we want to hear your comments on what's going on in Alabama. I mean, there are a lot of things going on in Alabama, but this recent legal entanglement and crisis that is happening surrounding, I would say, the dock master and everything that happens surrounding the boat. Mark?
Well, thank you. And let me preface this by saying there are many reasons that Dwight McKee is one of my heroes, but one of them is that he's just so quotable. And I'm just glad I had a pen and paper handy to write down, quote, when they go low, they may get hit by a chair, close quote. The Honorable Dwight McKee. So, I just love it.
We must use that against them. We must open up a show with that quote.
No, I want to keep my show. That's why I'm going to keep him as a guest. Lord have mercy. Oh, God. Okay.
But in looking at the footage of this, I'm struck by a couple of things. To me, it looks like we have a couple of different events happening at the same time. And the first of them is, to me, the most serious. And that is that you have the co-captain who's making his plea for cooperation. And then all of a sudden, a white man runs up on him and knocks him down. And the two of them are struggling. Now, there is a generally understood social contract, not just in this country, but everywhere, that when two people start mixing it up like that, then the obligation of bystanders, and it's understood, the understanding is that everybody is going to try and pull them apart. and try and calm the situation down. What's interesting is that all of the white people standing nearby did approach these two people, and you would think that that's what they were about to do, except what they did is you could almost see it. It was almost demonic. It was almost as if now is the time to lynch this man. And they all began to pile on top and to get their blows in, which is highly disturbing just to watch that to me, because that's just evil. I mean, that you not only that they would engage in gratuitous violence, but that they would willingly, knowingly, purposefully do it and direct it at a man who is totally and completely helpless. And what does that say about them? And I certainly don't discount the likelihood, if not certainty, that in that group there were people who were raging racists, white supremacists, consciously and purposely, and who wear that as a proud badge. But more disturbing to me are the people in that group who were not necessarily of that mindset, who don't set out to be white supremacists or racists, but who instead are regular people who are the products of social conditioning. Generations of being trained to understand that in this country, a black man does not come up and get in the face of anybody, that is not their place, that is not their station. They have no right to do that. And in fact, the very idea that a black man would stand up to white people and try and tell them to do is a crime in and of itself, and a crime that deserves to be punished summarily and decisively, and in a way that this man never thinks again about getting up out of his place. And so in their minds, they're carrying out a social obligation, which they as white people have been trained to carry out over the generations, of putting this man back in his place. And so that is very alarming. And so, I'm not a prosecutor, and I've never been one, but I've been around them enough to know that if I were in that situation, that this is how I would manage this entire event. One, with respect to this first attack, where this man is under attack by this group of people, I would focus heavily on trying to prosecute all of them. You've got a clear victim, and you've got several white people who see what's going on and who make the knowing decision to join in an assault and battery on this man. And if the racial elements are present, then it's enhanced by the hate crimes features of whatever statutes may govern here. But I would focus on prosecuting them. As to everything that jumped off after that, in terms of the fights that went on elsewhere, and a little bit later than that, I would handle that in much the same way that we used to handle barroom brawls when I was a young lawyer, earning paying my dues in night court, when I would represent guys who got in fights like that. And the way that we would work it out with the prosecutor is we would do what was called a Fifth Amendment wash, which is basically that in order to make the case, then I need the testimony of the person who is the combatant. And if that person refuses to run the risk of self-incrimination by testifying, then I don't have it, and I can't make that case. If everybody involved in those brawls exercises their Fifth Amendment rights, then yes, arguably you could try and make a case with videos, but for purposes of the law, we just say it's a wash. We don't have any testimony, and so therefore all of these cases go away. Because, really, I don't know that all of those people, in my mind, as a prosecutor, I would regard as criminals. I think these are people who were caught up in the moment. These were people who saw a horrible injustice. At least the black people, they saw a horrible injustice, and they were trying to do justice, in the best way that they could in the moment. And, as to the white people involved, maybe they need to be prosecuted, but I don't know how much time should be invested in trying to charge them. I think they got their punishment. So that's the way I would handle it from a legal perspective. But I think all in all, it's the whole event, really is, cause for lots of reflection. And I think that it really says a lot about the character of Black people in particular. And we have always known that we are prepared and ready to throw down and to stand up for our rights in whatever way, by whatever means necessary. And this was just another event which should make all of us very proud.
Ooh. Attorney CK, the only person we haven't heard from is Pastor Stephen Thurston.
Pastor Stephen Thurston, we definitely want to hear from you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely. Thank you. Well, Alabama has a history of unjustly giving Black men the chair. And so Sunday, a Black man just had to give it right back. That's what happened. And as I looked at the video from a sociological and psychological perspective, I just saw the DSM-5 Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Health playing out, because you saw antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder on full display after being told for 40 minutes to move and you refuse, and being appalled that a Black man would challenge your white privilege. And that then turns into a melee there. And, we challenge people from the perspective of being against violence, and I'm pro that, but I'm also with what our dear brother Malcolm X said. He said it best: I don't even call it violence when it's in self-defense. I call it intelligence. And we've seen the memes that have flown out. Some of the most creative memes that I've ever seen have come out of this. But one that consistently disturbs me are the memes that suggest we're not our ancestors. And I think it's dangerous and harmful and shows a lack of wisdom and background knowledge, especially when Black those memes, because Black rebellion in the United States has often been minimized and mischaracterized as willful and feral acts of violence versus being self-defense response. And we have a history of not standing down, but standing up. From the Stonewall Rebellion in 1739, the rebellion in Montgomery County, Maryland in 1845, Denmark Vesey Rebellion, South Carolina, 1822, New York City race riots, 1900, Chicago race riots, 1919. Black people as a collective will stand up. And I think as our generations move forward and younger people are being more sensitive to emotional intelligence, tapping into their true feelings, not repressing the trauma that's in them. If y'all step to us, you're going to get stepped back with some force, because I believe this whole "we're not going to take it anymore" is rising up. You see that more and more in younger generations who just don't have the tolerance for the mayhem and for the madness that people of the Caucasian persuasion often present. And then they allow their fragility to enter into the equation. We don't care about that. Right is right, and we want all people to be treated well, especially us. And so these incidents will continue to happen as long as one group of people think that they're entitled and better than another group of people.
CK, 40 minutes? I mean,
yeah.
You asked me one time, "Oh, I'm in the way," and wait, I'm in the way of the big ship. This is where they dock it. Everybody, it's Montgomery. It's that big. You know where the Harriet docks. Are you serious? And it just, I mean, oh wow. I mean, the deeper, the more you probe into, the more you dig into the story, the more disturbing it is. CK.
No, absolutely. The more disturbing it is. And I think there's going to be a lot of discussion and activity as a result of this case. I call it a case now because I think it's going to mushroom. It's going to take on a life of its own because people are looking at this as a symptom of what's happening in this country. Today it's Alabama. By the way, this has been happening for a very long time. This is not new. The difference is it made social media because I have to tell you, these phones, a powerful tool. Where would we have been if there was not a videotape of George Floyd being murdered? Where would we have been if there wasn't the video, ironically, that one of the defendants took of Ahmaud Arbery being murdered? And if right now, if I'm Ahmaud Arbery's family, I am saying to myself, if only there had been anyone to come to my child's aid when he was running for his life. Because this could have been so different if there hadn't been these good Samaritans, these bystanders who took action. The result could have been so different. So we have to look at the blessings in this cloud. And most importantly, we have to see and try to protect and provide legal counsel and help for those good Samaritans who were protecting an individual and who felt that it was important for them at this moment in time to stand up. Give them the support that they need.
Well, you know,
and that's what I think.
The music's on just a little bit early right now. Wait a minute. Music is on a little early. Hold on. Hold on, because we did take our commercial break at the bottom of the hour. So we're off in another 10 minutes. I want to get some closing thoughts, CK, from everybody. Get some closing thoughts and help to frame them. We've heard the least from Attorney Daryl Jones. Attorney Daryl Jones, because you and Attorney Barbara Arnwine followed the Ahmaud Arbery case when no one knew about it. And thank God, even though the person who filmed it was filming it for the opposite reason, he ended up sending himself to prison. But what do you make of this case?
Well, Santita, there's a lot to unfold when we're looking at this hate crime that occurred in Alabama. But I tell you, one of the pieces that I'm really struck by positively is the young African American guy that you were making reference to that swam across the river to render assistance to the dock worker that was being beaten. That, I think, sends a really strong signal because, what you end up seeing, and let's not forget, there's also a young white guy that was coming to the aid of the dock worker, too, that you can see on the film.
Both of them 16, right?
Both of them 16 years old. Yeah. And I think the message that sends to some degree is that there is a young generation, and this generation that's coming up is the most diverse and the most, accepting of cultural differences of any generation in our country's history. And I'm hoping that the two of them can begin to spark that fire, that flame of inclusion and a new way of thinking, the new South way of thinking in Alabama. And, that's what we need to have happen. With the Ahmaud Arbery case, one of the things when we got to the federal case, one of the things that was going to happen is that they were pushing forward on a federal plea. And the family wasn't even really consulted about it, but said, no, we want to have the trial because we need to have the casket open so the people can see what all evil and hatred went into the death of Ahmaud Arbery. Similarly, here in this case in Alabama, in Montgomery, we've got to be certain that we open up this casket and see what all was going on in this incident so that America can begin to heal. We can't begin to heal any type of racial divide until we begin to understand what all is there, what all is in the minds of the people that are making them feel as though it's okay to beat this black man when he's by himself and that you can gang up on him. That's where I think we are at this moment. So I'm waiting to see, and I'm hoping that the community will wrap its arms around this situation and dig into it and begin to expose everything that's there, so we can begin to learn and heal from it. Santita.
I hear you. And of course, CK, you'll have the final word here. But Pastor Stephen Thurston, so the church has been at the center of our movement. And absolutely, that's where, Dr. King, that was Montgomery. How ironic it is that this would happen there, right? Moving forward, what should we be doing? What should the church be doing, Pastor Thurston?
Continuing to educate younger generations about the rich realities of our past instead of the revisionist history that's being peddled and fed to us. And then, as the attorneys have said, if charges are being pressed against our people that were simply defending themselves, then the church needs to be the base that raised the capital. When Kyle Rittenhouse and other mass murderers of white complexion engage in heinous acts, they have millions of dollars that are raised for them in days. well, Black people need to come together, put our money where our mouth is, and make sure that our brothers and our sisters are protected and freed if they're incarcerated because of this situation. So the church has to be that base where everything comes from to help one another as we function as a collective community.
And preach about it through the week. That has
That's
to happen because our movement came out of the church, because the church is the only instrument that we have that's free enough to do that, because you paid them to do that. Huh? Come on now. That's right. Attorney Mark Fancher.
Well, in keeping with that idea, I think that as we continue to consider this, that we also are very clear about the fact that although it seems contradictory, the Black people who responded out of love. And that's what we're charged to do, is to love one another. And we can't just stand by and allow people to be overcome and overwhelmed by evil. But I think that we're also compelled to not necessarily paint with too broad a brush, and to presume that everybody who engaged in the attack on this man or who engaged in the incident at all is necessarily irredeemable. I think we are really compelled to remain open to the possibility that in this very confusing time, when so many white people are being misled, so many people are being confused because of their predicament, that they too have to be people that we engage with to ensure that there's a greater understanding, a better understanding of the dynamics, the history, and the social conditions that cause these types of conflicts and tensions to occur. We can't just write people off.
Amen to that. Dr. Deeds, White McKee.
Well, I just co-sign on what everybody said and what Mark just said, is that I think that the fact that we witnessed other men get beaten and killed and suffocated and killed and shot in the back and killed, I think it put in us an urgency to be able to protect anybody under duress, protect our own in such a way that historically we tried to leave that to the justice system or the police departments. And when we found out we were not getting justice that way, we have assumed the mantle, assumed the role of self-defense and protecting our own. And I think that, I think this is going to be a landmark. I think it's going to be we'll look at this like we looked at Selma, and look at this like we look at Montgomery. The Dr. King March Montgomery. It's really, I think, a pivotal point in Black America, because we saw the best of the ordinary people who rose to the occasion and put their own lives and their own freedom on the line to save one of their own. And I think that, it really speaks of us as a people who now have matured enough to not just allow white supremacy just to overwhelm us. And ultimately, I think that the young man who jumped in the water and swam to help defend an older gentleman, I think he represents a whole new generation of mindset of young black men.
Absolutely.
Who, go ahead.
No, because I've got about a minute and a half. I need CK to close everything out. I can hear something in the background. So if someone could if everyone could put themselves on mute, and we'll be talking just a little bit more on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. CK, 90 seconds, they belong to you.
Santita, this is just another example of how our fight and our struggle continues. We've heard from, just our great morning stars from, the chair of Transformative Justice Coalition, Darrell Jones, who from his own personal experience was there. He and Barbara Arnwine, as you indicated, were there with the Ahmaud Arbery family, marching and protesting, and plus going on tours throughout the country and
and fighting for voting rights and social justice. We've heard from Pastor Thurston, who gave us a great perspective, not just of the need for the churches to become more involved in this fight, but just how we need to continue to be on point with this and stand up with this. We've heard from, we call him Daddy D, but the greatest social scientist of all times, I believe, Dwight McKee, who has lent his wisdom to us on what we need to do. And of course, Attorney Mark Sanchez will always bring the dose of reality to us in case we miss something. And so, and of course, you, Santita. So what do we have to do? We have to look at where we go from here, because it's Montgomery, Alabama today. It's Atlanta, Georgia tomorrow. It's Minneapolis the next day. And we averted a real crisis. I have to bring it back home again, where over 1,000 lawyers and judges were assembled for the National Bar Association meeting in Minneapolis, and their lives were threatened. We were threatened. There was a specific message that they were going to take us out. There were federal judges amongst them. So we were not deterred. If anything, it empowered us to fight harder, because we are not going to bow down to intimidation, threats of violence, just as those group of good Samaritans and brave men stood up to protect that gentleman who was doing his job. So this is a page from a page book that we need to look at and take throughout the country. And we need to mobilize lawyers to be on standby, to protect and to serve, which is what we go to law school to do, serve and protect those who need us most for free.
Everybody, wait a minute. And it's for our freedom. Some things you can't afford not to be there. How about that? How about that? You get food on your table, your mortgage is paid, and we can raise up a collection to pay it. There's some things you cannot afford not to do. Freedom is not free. You got to pay for it. And that's the way it has to be. We'll continue this conversation on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Going to get some more closing thoughts on this tremendous panel. But I love you all, everybody. Stay and like and share the show. Like and share. I love you, everybody. Thank you for a wonderful show, Henry. See you tomorrow, everybody. Dwight, I hated to interrupt you, but I wanted you to finish your thoughts, because you're just absolutely brilliant.
Oh, I was just saying that the young man represents a whole nother generation of freedom fighters, that he would jump in the water, risk his life, not just from the water itself, but from a fight with all these big guys who the average grown man would be intimidated by. He thought nothing of jumping out the water to go and save his compatriot. And so that gives me much hope for the future, because these young guys have a different mentality. You know, they are not a yes or boss. They are not a smile when you ain't happy kind of generation. They are a generation that's willing to risk themselves and their freedom in their lives. Because the other part of that is that historically, when a young guy gets involved with fighting white people, then he's the one that go to jail. He's the one the police turn on. He's the one that get beat down by the police. So all of that was at risk. And he thought of none of that to try to protect his man. And he probably was involved in saving this man's life.
Well, I mean, and and let's not forget the young white boy. Both of them 16. I think, you made the point, CK. Both who I don't know who made the point, but they're both 16-year-old boys. I mean, these are not grown men. These are children. These are children who saw that and said, This is CK. Whew. Boy, oh boy, this is a whole lot. But this has been a whole lot. CK?
It has, but there's a silver lining in every cloud that young people would convert. I think it was Daryl Jones who made the point about how young people are, and we see this in the voters. We see this in the voters, Santita. We know, with the voting, all of the voting efforts and the fight that your dad has fought and those who stand on his shoulders, we see that young people are the ones, as has always been the case, who are going to make a difference. They are making a difference. And this is proof positive. We saw this in this random case in Montgomery, Alabama. Horrific. 2 young people, 16, they didn't even think about it. They just acted and did what's right. In the law, they call them good Samaritans. That's what they call them in the law. You'll see case law that's replete with the term good Samaritan. When you see that, it's people that step out and help a fellow human being because that's what you're supposed to do. That is what it's called for. You see someone dying, see someone who's being killed, and you can intervene, you act. But here, when it's motivated by racial animus, it's a whole different issue because right is right and wrong is wrong. And it was wrong.
40 plus minutes. He asked them to move and they refused. Like, who does that? I mean, Mark, is anyone still there? Mark, you still there? Attorney Daryl Jones?
Yes, Santita, I'm still here. You're right. I mean, 40 minutes of just sitting.
What was that? I mean, they refused. They refused to move. Like, who are you guys? I mean, and Daryl,
really
where were the police? Where were the police? Oh, the Coast Guard, somebody.
Santita, when you start with the police, you got to remember there was another story that came out with regards to the Montgomery police that indicate that there was a black police officer in uniform that subsequently came up to the white guys that were on the boat to talk to them and ask them what happened. And the white guys began by saying these ends, right? This to the black police officer. These ends came up and started fighting. Right. And needless to say, the officer kept his cool, and said, sir, I need you to turn around, put your hands behind your back. Right. You're under arrest. But but
you can't make this stuff up. Oh my gosh.
You cannot make this up. But it also goes to what Dwight was saying a little earlier with regards to, the mindset of those white folks that were involved in this, and believing that they've done nothing wrong, that there are no rights that the blacks have that we need to respect. That we can refer to them in this manner, in this demeaning manner. And this is okay. Even to one that's in uniform, we can talk about them like that. And it really does go to that mindset that's there. And the question still becomes, this can be a teachable moment for the country. And the question is, will we make it one? And it's so interesting because, we now have the first black mayor that's there in Montgomery. And this is a chance for him to stand up as well and be on, and to put up, the showing of what needs to happen, of the efforts that need to take place in order to move the country forward, in order to deal with this racism that's so deeply seated in the country. I mean, this is that example. That's how I see this, Santita.
Dwight McKee, your thoughts?
I totally agree. I think it can be a teachable moment for the whole country, but mostly for us. It is. Dr. King said, and they very seldomly play the speech. He said, "Don't ever let anybody take your manhood. Don't ever let anybody take your manhood." And that's what you saw yesterday was a tribute to the black man's manhood. Is that we're not going to let anybody just come and just impose their will on us as if we're not real people or we're not real citizens, like we don't have real rights. And you will not beat us at your will without retribution. There's a price to be paid. There's a consequence to be paid for violating us. And that's what we have to build into the culture. Like other ethnic groups have built that into the culture. There has to be a price to be paid when you violate us, whatever that looks like.
Well, Pastor Thurston, are you still there?
I am still here, Santita. We talk about these teachable moments, and if I can just be honest, I'm tired of teachable moments. Okay. They should have learned by now. how many more hundreds of years do we have to continue to give teachable moments for people to act as human beings towards other human beings and dismiss this notion that we're somehow superior? I think we have extended grace for far too long, and sometimes our grace perpetuates their ignorance towards us. And it will continue to take moments like this where we stand up and fight back and demonstrate force to make people sit down and respect us. So hopefully we don't have to keep having teachable moments. People will just learn to treat other human beings like other human beings and see everybody as neighbor.
So what do you say to your congregation now?
Equip yourselves mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually for every battle that's going to come your way on week by week, day by day basis. Something's coming at you. You have to have the level of emotional intelligence to know that it's coming, and then in advance be prepared for it so that you can respond rather than react. To demonstrate love, care, and concern to all people, seeing all people as neighbor, seeing yourself not as the one that's always doing the helping, but the one that's in position that needs to be helped, which makes you more empathetic and sympathetic to all around you. And at the end, recognize that all of us function from a place of privilege in some way, shape, form, or fashion, depending on the various contexts we're in. And being aware of the privilege that we possess, again, ought to sensitize us and make us empathetic to others around us, which should level the playing field in some level, to equip us to love, care, and show concern and compassion for everybody. But at the end of the day, if you find yourself in a position where you've got to defend yourself or your brother, be prepared to do so. Do not continue to take the beatings and the abuse. You must stand up for yourself. Because if you don't stand up for yourself, you'll find yourself in a perpetual place of being punished in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Do you know, to your point, Dr. King talked about that sense of somebodyness. Reverend Jackson evolved it to, I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody. I must be respected. I must be protected, never neglected. I am God's child. You got to know that, Dwight. Pastor Thurston. I mean, CK.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, whew.
Well,
boy.
Well, my closing thought.
Oh, hold on, Dwight. Before you contribute, hold on, Dwight. Before you contribute, CK's running to court. CK.
I do have to run. I'm so sorry, but Santita, you said it best. Just what your father said. That's a quote. It's so prophetic. That is a quote that we must take with us. Black men and Black women.
Yes.
Black men and Black women. So, but thank you for providing this forum, Santita, for us to have this honest conversation. Because I can assure you, there are a lot of places where people are talking about this, but the conversation is not honest about this.
Well, you know,
thank you for that.
And I thank my radio station for giving me the space to do that, to have this honest and earnest conversation, because they don't have to do it, but they have, and you know, and that's important. Dwight.
Well, before CK runs, I just want to say that a Black man invented the folding chair, and I think he may have invented it for such a time as this.
Okay, now I do not want Reverend Thurston to put that in your sermon. Reverend Thurston.
Hey, we giving out folding chairs at church Sunday.
I must try. I really must try. I gotta put my face in the right space because I just feel like howling like. But I must run.
CK,
okay.
You know the Kappas. You know the Kappas do the canes. I've seen a meme where this guy was twirling that chair, like the Kappas twirl the canes. I thought I was going to I said, now this, Stephen, this is when you need to be at Morehouse. I need to be at Howard. It's all up on the yard. The things that the conversations. This is when you love a Black school. The conversations we'd be having in the dorms. And when you get up on main campus, you would be like, what? Honey, you might even jump in the car and go to Montgomery yourself. Huh? Oh, boy. Yeah, Dwight, you are terrible. And Dwight's come up with something else. Why turn a martyr into a monster? Now he will now Stephen is an entrepreneur. He will get some pins of folding chairs, swing it in the air, and he'll be passing by at church. Ooh-wee. You can't make this up, everybody. But you know what? I tell you, I think the ancestors are smiling not about the fight in us, not the fight that manifested, because that means your spirit is alive. You have been inspired. The spirit in you is alive, and that's important.
Yeah.
I'm not going to co-sign violence, but I'm not going to co-sign getting beat down either. And I think that can coexist. When you come swinging on me, we're gonna have a problem. Okay. And I get that. That having been said, and they have not seen that because slaves are not born. Attorney Jones, Pastor Thurston, and Dwight McKee. Slaves are made. You have to break someone's spirit. You have to break them to make them into a slave. And so there's something that's happened. I mean, when we keep saying that, oh, we've not made any progress, the civil rights movement. No. Somewhere between Malcolm, by any means necessary, Dr. King, I have a dream, and you got to have the strength to love. We're going to be nonviolent. We're going to treat this man a whole different lesson because they are from a warring people. That's what they do over in Europe. We're going to come up with something else. I am somebody. We're going to keep hope alive. Oh, yeah, somewhere between all of that. Somewhere between Ralph Waldo Emerson, because there's some people who've come out with some red, yellow, black, brown, and white, somewhere between the wisdom of the ages from the indigenous people. Some seeds have landed. And this black boy jumped in that water. He didn't know what the end was going to be. And a young white boy intervened. Both of them 16. They've seen something in these 16 years that these children have had on this earth. And they saw an injustice and sought to intervene and make it right. And I think we have to, I want to know who that 16-year-old white child is too, because these are children. They're not, that's not my brother. That's my son, that 16-year-old child who jumped in that water. You know, a lot of people laughed and thought it was cute. But I said, when I found out this was a boy, oh, I thank God for his fight. I thank God for it. But that same fight in that white boy, I saw Dwight McKee in, and you knew him too, Reverend Thurston. I saw it in Frank Watkins, who fought until the day he died. Just kept fighting because he felt that we could be not just better people, we could be the people that God intended us to be.
Yeah.
We can do that. So I'm going to let you all have the final word here, because I know we're going to continue to talk about it because this has brought something else out of us. Because Dwight McKee, we continue to say that this is Trump, and I'm like, y'all, this ain't. To put it all on Trump, you absolve everybody else of everything else that they have done. Dwight McKee, your final thoughts.
Yeah, you really do, and it's a disservice to reality and a disservice to history when you try to take this down to within a 10-year span of one man. This is so much bigger than that. But the positive that comes out of this is in many ways it's united the country, a country that's been divided by racism. In some ways, they are reunited because it's really been inspirational to Black people who've taken a lot of hits in these last 5 or 10 years. Mm-hmm. We've not had a lot of victories, and we see this as a victory. In many ways, we celebrated this like we celebrated when the Black quarterback Doug Williams won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. It was almost that kind of moment for us, and many white people, their real values were put up in front because they are also anti-injustice, and they saw how injustice was. And so they've taken a very positive position and trying to protect the rights of all people. And so when you think everything is lost, the Tulsa crowd lost their case the other week. God has a ram in the thicket to keep renewing your energy and your faith.
Amen. Amen. And do I still have my dear, 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 my beloved attorney, Daryl Jones? Are you still there, or have you left us already? Well, these folks do have to go to court. They do have other jobs. But I want to thank you all for being with us today. Everybody, like and share the show. Please like and share, like and share, like and share, like and share. And let's continue to have some real, honest conversations. That's the only way that we're going to move forward. We've got to we need to have these conversations, and they need to be honest about what we saw, about why this happened. Because people keep trying to dance. Some folks are trying to dance around the racial issue. You can't do that, and no one is well served when you do. Just be honest. Yes, who we are was on full display. Now the question is, who are we going to be? That's the question. Are we going to stay here? Or are we going to continue to move forward and upward? That's the question. And we can choose, we can lose. Whatever it is, we're at that inflection point. Here we are. Please don't put it on one person. Because you go past all of the people who have sent smoke signals and who have lit fires on racism and other forms of classism in America and the world today. We're going to keep our eyes open, and Pastor Thurston to continue to look at Niger and what's happening over there, because it's not just what's happening in Niger. Is really they have taken a stand on anti-colonialism. They said the African Union, you're not who Gaddafi said you were going to be. You all have become mouthpieces for the West, so don't you come in here either. And NATO, don't even think about it. ECOWAS, no, don't think about it. No. Something else is going on. There is a freedom trader coming, and as Reverend Jackson says, you got to be registered to ride. Get on board, get on board, get on board. In America, you got to be registered to ride. And you know what? You have to be willing to sacrifice something. Lawyers, if these workers need representation, and they do, you don't need to worry about a fee. You're not going to be free to practice law if they're not free. You're not going to keep that lovely job if folks are not free. All these folks who are living fancy, who are being fancy, it's these unfancy folks who made it possible for you to live the elevated life, at least economically. These nameless, faceless people, they made life possible for you. You have no choice. You have every obligation to help them. If you have got a firm that helps the people increase their wealth, you have an obligation to come into the poor communities and help Black folks get their wealth. You have that obligation. Because I know y'all come over to Rainbow Push asking Reverend to make these multi-million and multi-billion-dollar calls to you, and you don't pay him for it. That's okay, because he's not asking you for that. But he represents all of these nameless, faceless people, and without them, you cannot exist. So the Black professional class, you need to get with it. Because our Jewish brothers and sisters do not let their people hang out to dry. Our Italian brothers and sisters do not let their people hang out to dry. Nobody lets their people hang out to dry. They say, that what you've done unto the least of these, Pastor Thurston? I am not. Come on, what did he say? What did he say?
That's how you treat me.
Okay.
That's how we treat Jesus.
Okay.
And so we got to treat people better so we can demonstrate.
What does that mean?
What
does that mean?
How we treat the least of these is indicative of how we really feel about Christ. And so if we say and proclaim to be Christ followers, that we love Christ, that we're willing to walk in God's will and God's way, then we need to treat people the way Christ treats people. He had care, concern, compassion, especially for the least, the left out, the marginalized, and the minimized. And so we need to move, Santita, from preaching and talking prophetic messages to providing prophetic maps, showing people how to get out of the state and the place that they're in.
Okay, say
walking
that
them to their freedom.
Just say that.
We got to move. We got to move from prophetic mess. We can't just talk about it and paint a picture. We have to grab people by the hand and walk them to their destiny.
I like that. Thank you for that. Whew. Well, you all giving us a word today, and I just thank you because this has been, boy, oh boy, a blessing. Really, a true blessing, a true blessing. The Lord pulled the right people together today. I love you all. Dwight, do you have anything else you want to say before we go?
Assalamu alaikum.
Don't eat ham, cheese, or bacon. That's what I was told. Yeah, that crazy. I know. But wa alaikum salam and greetings and shalom, and may God bless all of you till we meet again. And as my Aunt Irene Ware, an icon of radio, used to say, tell somebody you love that you love them today. Please do that. Do that. Tell somebody you love that you love them. And don't leave anybody angry. Please, this might be the last time you don't know. So please, let's become what we say we want the world to be. Let's be love, not just loving. Let's be love. Let's be kind. And let's just get right. Clean out our own hearts. Let's get this right. 40 minutes though. Come on, y'all. They asked them to move for 40 minutes and they wouldn't move. How about that piece? Oh, whew. You can't make this stuff up. Oh, but I'm glad it happened because this is where we are. At least some of us are here. But two 16-year-old boys, a black one and a white one, said, not on my watch. Remember that. Remember that. I love you, everybody. God bless you. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow. I love you, Pastor Thurston, who I'm about to call right now. And Dwight McKee, love you, love you, love you. God bless you, everybody. And I love you, Morning Stars, more than I can say. Love you, everybody.